Hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we'll be talking to Mark Vennis, Managing Director at Moviehouse Entertainment. We'll be talking about everything that's going on in the marketplace and how AFM is running so far. Let's see what Mark has to say. Welcome Mark, thank you so much for joining us here today. Today we want to talk about everything that's going on at AFM and how the marketplace is currently moving. But before we get into that, one thing that I've been asking everyone we've been interviewing this week is, what is their favourite film? So the same question goes for you. What is your favourite film?
I don't know. I have many different films that I enjoy. I guess if I was to choose one, it would probably be The Good, the Bad and the Ugly.
Amazing. Yeah, that was one of our colleagues.
Choose one.
Yeah, we have had many discussions about that film in the office. Yeah. It was Jamie's favourite film, who, he would always talk about it. So it's a very, very good choice.
Yeah.
Is there any moments in your life or when you were younger and you were in a cinema, was it that film that inspired you to get into this industry? Or was there a particular moment in time that inspired you to want to work within the film industry?
That's an interesting question. I can't really recall one single film, but a whole number of films. Probably the Sergio Leone pictures, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly is one of them. Probably Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick's movie.
Oh, amazing.
What else? It was a number of different things. Probably a bunch of the Film 4 films, My Beautiful Laundrette in the 80s. What else? So all those types of films, kind of slightly more offbeat. Five Easy Pieces, the Jack Nicholson movie from the 70s, McCabe and Mrs. Miller. That movie, Altman's movie from then, 73, I guess that was. So yeah, it's wide and varied.
Very
so there wasn't specifically, but also I'm not one of those people who kind of went avidly down the cinema. Really, my education was when Channel 4 started putting out films kind of later at night, which were kind of different to the mainstream. So you got to catch a lot of, art house films then. I don't know if you remember a filmmaker called Alex Cox.
Okay. No, I don't recall.
Who made Repo Man and Walker and Straight to Hell with Joe Strummer. All those films. He had a show on, I think, BBC Two called Movie Drone.
Okay.
In the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and that was really about films that maybe people hadn't seen before, shining a light on those films. And of course, now it's a completely different world. We can access movies 24/7, any types of movies. So
yeah, and I remember those screenings because they were quite late night on Channel 4, and I was always too young to watch them because they would start at 11 and finish at 1, and then I'd have to go to school the next day. So I never really caught that, but. And Film 4 now do a similar thing with their late night horror and art house films as well. So it's like there's continuing expressing independent film.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's move in and talk about the marketplace and what is currently happening. Are you seeing any trends at the moment? What kind of films are selling?
I think it's a very difficult period for independent films. I think on the one hand, there are the big streamers who, kind of gobble up all the actors and all the talents. And on the other hand, there's the kind of spectacle movies, the James Bonds, the Marvel film. And I think indie film is being squeezed, in a kind of pincer movement by these two things. I think it's very difficult. Obviously added to that is the whole coronavirus and what's happening with the theatrical distribution sector in the UK. I just think it's a very tough world at the moment for indies.
So with that in mind, what does the future of independent film look like in your opinion?
Well, I don't think anybody in their right mind will make any predictions because I think it's in a period of change, and I think that period of change, we don't know where the cards are going to fall for the next while or so. So I think I wouldn't want to make any kind of predictions. What I do know is that I do think that there are clearly still going to be interesting filmmakers and interesting films made. It just depends where the money, the finance for those come from, and where it's distributed. And I do think we have to get away from the old idea of the kind of obsession with theatrical distribution, and using different windows. Can you excuse me 1 second? I'm afraid the phone's ringing.
Yeah, no, go for it. So VOD platforms are obviously a huge gate which can open up for independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
If only they were a lot easier to access, such as getting meetings with Netflix and getting more independent films onto Netflix.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more projects being selected or picked up for Netflix after festival screenings? Or what would you say is the best route for festival filmmakers to make it onto a VOD platform?
Well, I think obviously having the right representation helps in terms of selling them into the platforms and Netflix and so forth. And I think that that can be done. I think the problem is financially. I don't think that replaces that the amount of money it obviously takes to make a film. I don't think it replaces the amount that you might have got previously from a theatrical distributor. And I think the thing. I mean, I obviously I kind of understand also people's urge to have their films shown on the big screen. I totally get it, but I'm just not sure whether that's the world we're going to be entering or moving into, unfortunately.
I think the VOD platform is exciting for a lot of our filmmakers, for sure, just to get their film shown to a wider audience.
Yeah.
You mentioned budgets there and the finances that you need to get behind your film. Talking about that, do you work with low budgets? What kind of range do you work with?
We work with any kind of budget, so it's from low to I guess medium, up to $10 million. I would have thought we work with, but it really depends on the movie, on the movie, on the script, on the cast, on the talent attached, generally.
So as we're talking about that, what are some requirements that our filmmakers need before they can approach a company like yourself? What would you like to see?
Obviously a good script. So not a script that's still in some kind of development.
Okay.
300 pages long. That's not interesting to us. Preferably a director attached, but maybe not. And preferably a producer who knows what he's doing, or she knows what she's doing.
Do you work
but
with
equally, we produce as well, so
And what about debut filmmakers who've made a handful of short films and now looking to make their first feature? Is this something that you are happy, or projects to look at that you are happy for?
Yeah. Yes, we are. I think that's important because I just think it's so difficult to try and kind of make your first and then your second film in this environment. That I think that's kind of important. There's no, the talent pool just gets smaller, not bigger. It's silly.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of filmmakers who'll be watching this will be like, yes, great, there's support for the filmmakers that are emerging. So that's really great to hear. So you like the script to be a little bit down the line, maybe in its third or fourth draft, and it's ready to present. Ideally, a director or a producer who knows what they're doing attached. Is there any other requirements that you look for?
No, not necessarily. That's we kind of look at it at any stage, really. We don't develop, I guess, is my point. That's all we don't do. The rest we do.
Okay, nice. And what about genres? Is there any particular genre that you lean more favourable towards, or again, you look at everything?
We pretty much look at everything. I mean, it's we look at everything. I mean, there are some genres that we find particularly difficult. Romantic comedies, for instance, I think are quite difficult internationally, and without cast, can be a real challenge. And by cast, I mean really A+ list. That's quite a challenge. I think rom-coms. Horrors are always a favourite on the sales scene, and they don't seem to be going away. A good horror film is always a commercially sound thing to do. Thrillers. I think thrillers. We like them, but you've got to be aware that you're competing against, a lot of thrillers on television that are, impeccably scripted and financed and production values and all the rest of it. So that can sometimes be a tall order. And what else is there? Generally all of it, really.
Nice. Yeah, no, we've been, as I've mentioned, we've been speaking to quite a few sale agents this week, and family friendly is another one that keeps popping up.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for filmmakers who like to do the art house and more festival underground scene on the best way that they can move into creating something that is family friendly or sellable, in your opinion?
Well, my advice would be to think about the audience and what the audience want to see, and then think about what your message is. So the classic example, all those studio pictures that were made by John Ford and Howard Hawks and all the rest of it, they were making cowboy films, but they managed to put messages or drama within a kind of format that was commercial. And I think that's the same. That's true of the gangster genre, in the 30s and the 40s, and film noir and all these things. Yeah. And so I think it's really how, in terms of an audience, what does an audience want to see? And then how do you figure out what you've got to say to that audience, and putting those two things together, if that makes sense.
No,
so
absolutely.
I don't think genre I don't think is a dirty word. I mean, I think it's, I think it's the kind of, it's the detail in which you inject that genre that I think is kind of the interesting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great advice. We always try and tell our filmmakers to work backwards and find out who their audience is first, to then create the type of project, and also to read what is happening in the marketplace and find out what films are selling at this moment in time. So kind of find out those pieces and then create your film around what is happening at this moment in time. So it's nice to hear that our information is aligning here.
Yeah. Good.
Nice. So yeah, I guess you've answered most of my questions, but my final question would be, what is the best way for someone, a filmmaker or a producer, to approach a company like yours?
Just send me an email.
Just drop you an email? Is there anything in particular within that email that you are like do's and don'ts?
Don't make it boring.
Fair enough.
Don't make it boring, but equally don't say that I'm gonna, my company's gonna earn millions of pounds out of this film. So just kind of, think about what you're selling, and make it very accessible to read. Everyone's got a time deficit, and that's not exclusive to me, as it's not to you, as it's not to the filmmakers. Everyone has that in the industry, and the quicker you can cut to the old chase, the better, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, dear Mark, you're great. This is what I want to sell. That's it. This is, here's the log line. Is it interesting? Can I send the script?
Exactly that. Do you just want a log line? Because
I don't need the flannel. I don't need the flannel, and I'm not looking for new friends. I just need, I need to know whether the project is interesting or not.
So yeah, you've got to sell your project within a sentence or two then.
Yeah, or just sound as though you know what you're talking about, because I think that's another big thing, is, because that's another really important aspect of it, So yeah.
And finally then, what about attachments? Because you can get so easily bombarded with all of these documents and everything else that they have to support their project. Would you rather have the log line first and see if you're actually interested in the project, and then send everything?
Yeah, I think it's different. If it's a script writer, then I'll give them some latitude, because they're like a creative. They're looking for a producer, or they're looking for, some advice, whatever it is. I think that's a different thing than a producer who is meant to be the business person on the film. They should be very clear about what it is they want from me. Do they want me to produce? Do they want me to exec it? Are they looking for finance? Or do they want just us as a sales company? And I think, so that one of the key things is that they've done their research on the company. There's no point, in going to, certain sales companies with an art house film, like there's no point in going to other sales companies with, a horror movie, so, and you've got to know what those companies are doing. And so I think it's about kind of, research and which doesn't take long because it's all online these days. It's not in the old days when I wanted to look up in the fucking books and, and all the rest of it. So I think that's the way. And I'm perfectly happy to take a pitch deck.
Okay.
As long as the email is interesting, the pitch deck's there, and then the question is, do you want to read the script? So yeah, I think it's really about using your kind of common sense, really.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, research is so important, and the accessibility of the websites. Claire and I often talk about Zinando and how amazing that platform is, because everybody's on there. Everybody's ethos and what the company's description is on there, and people's contact details are on there. So it is a great platform to use.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Nothing else?
Is there anything you'd like to add? Any do's and don'ts our filmmakers should be doing in the marketplace?
No, I think we kind of covered quite a lot of ground there, didn't we? I don't know whether there's anything. Just make it interesting. I think make the stuff interesting. If it interests me, it may interest an audience. Do you know what I mean? Like, make it interesting. Don't make boring shit.
Well, I mean, how many emails do you get a day? So they need to be able to stand out.
Yeah, need to be able to stand out. Absolutely. And you look at it. You look how much cultural shit is there made. There's piles of crap, and you've got to, as you say, you've got to stand out. You've got to make something good.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time again.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you.